So we'll get started. So I'll introduce myself really quick. I'm Scott Sabins. I've had a couple boys in RPLL for quite a while now. Started at T-ball several years ago, and my oldest just exited the program last year and is hopefully playing for Westview this year if they can get to play in. And I've got my middle son is in IM for the first time this year as well. So, and I'm actually in my car at Canyonside. So coming to you live from Canyonside, watching my daughter's softball practice at the moment. So multitasking here, but hopefully the connection is good for you guys. Um, so this should be just to kind of level set, make sure everyone's in the right place. This is our scorekeeper clinic for everybody, all of the teams that are younger than minors A, so or minors B. I'm sorry. So if you have any minors B, minors A, I am juniors, you are in the wrong place at the moment, unless you're just here to hear about scorekeeping for the younger divisions. But this is meant for everybody below minors B. Um, Also, just a few housekeeping things. I've got the chat up, so if anybody has questions, feel free to really unmute yourself. And this is not very formal, so feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. But if you want to use the chat function, that's fine too. I should be able to see it there as well. And hopefully you guys can see my screen. Ben sent out this Scorekeepers Clinic guide is really kind of just what we're going to walk through tonight and talk through the rules that apply to these divisions, which are probably about half of them. So you're in a good place in that you don't have to do pitch counts and a lot of the more complicated things. So this is a good place to be starting scorekeeping for those of you that haven't done it before. It's not actually too scary. It's pretty straightforward, especially at this level. And there's a lot of people that are around to help you with questions and whatnot if you have questions. So we'll go through the guide today. I'll stop and see if anybody has any quick housekeeping questions or anything like that. But I know we're kind of scheduled, I think, from 6 to 7 for this. I don't expect it to take the entire hour, but I'm happy to stay on and help answer what questions I can as well. So if there aren't any questions, I'm gonna dive into it here. So let me just minimize a few things on my side. So a couple of things just on the first page here. For these divisions, we are using the paper scorebook. You might have heard that RPLL is going to be using Game Changer in the upper divisions. They're going to be doing that for the first time this year for both IM and for juniors. But we're not going to be using Game Changer for the other divisions this year. We're kind of testing it out this year. So we're still going to be using the paper book. Couple sort of housekeeping things about that. Like when you arrive at the field to start your scorekeeping job, let me see what I can hold one up here. Hopefully you guys can see this. So the scorekeeper book will be in the bin. There's like orange bins that are around each of the fields. The books are there, so you'll grab one of those books. There's usually pens or pencils in those books. It's a good idea to bring some pencils on your own, just in case those are not there when you need them. But you're just going to grab the book from there, and then the first thing that you will do, I would say probably no later than about 10 minutes before the start of the game, make sure that you've checked in with both of the managers to get a lineup. So the first thing you're going to need is the lineup from your own team and also from the opposing team, so that it's a good idea to kind of get all of that written out in advance. In a couple pages here, we'll get to an example of what the scorebook looks like, and we'll walk through kind of how to fill it out. But lineup is important. It is kind of standard to do it by last name, first initial, jersey number, and position to an extent. So that's not going to be so much something that you're tracking on this in this division. But I will say that from experience doing this, like almost every manager does it differently, and some of them just don't even give you what you need. So if they don't give you what you need, just go back to them and ask. If they just have initials or some nonsense like that for the kids' names, make sure that they give you full names so that people can reference it later and make sure that they knew what happened if they need to. Let's see. So I think that's about it on the lineup stuff. So I'm going to zoom in here so you can see. Just minimize this. See what this looks like. So this is what it should look like when you're filling it out. So you've got, I'll zoom in even more here. So you're going to put their position number or their jersey number, their name, The position number is what, what their starting position is. You can fill that out if you have that from the manager. And then up here, it's not filled out here, but you can see, kind of the home team and the visitor name needs to be filled out up there. The date, and then the place will just be, like BMR, BMR2, CS or Canyon Side 3 or 4 or whatever, wherever you are. And then game time, it's good to actually start or keep track of the actual start time. So if your game's supposed to start at 6 o'clock, but doesn't actually start till 6:10 or something like that, keep track of the exact start time, because that will matter in terms of, if they can continue to play another inning or not, if we get close to time at the end. So that's about it on the kind of setup here. So if you got everybody, you'll do that on one side for the home team, another side for the visiting team. You guys are not going to have to track pitch counts and that kind of stuff over here, so don't worry about that part, or about setting up pitchers in here. So let me zoom out a little bit here. Let me stop there and see, are there any questions about kind of the initial scorebook setup and getting the lineup from the managers, anything like that?
Sorry,
Alrighty.
I guess I do have a question. So I've had a son go through. He's in maps now, and I'm going to be real honest with you. This is the first. I don't know that many people have been keeping these. I know you really want to keep track of the players, that they're all batting and that they're all getting equal infield time and outfield time. Is this? I mean, I guess just how important is this? Are people checking these? How do we document that it's happening? Like if the other team shows up and isn't doing it, they're the home team.
Right. Yeah, so that's something that's not been, it's not really the primary function of what we're trying to do here. Really what we're trying to do with these divisions is, keep track of everybody's, keep track of the runs, and keep track, really just you're keeping track of the score, right? And keeping track of who was up when, and how many outs there are. And, that's kind of the main thing that we're going for here. There is like, it's helpful to maybe like do something, some sort of notation, on here, and we can talk about it a little bit later as we look at one that's kind of filled out. But it might be helpful to notate, just to make sure that the kids, all the when they were out in the outfield or in the infield, and really for most of these divisions, we're not necessarily tracking all of that very granularly. So I would say that's not it's not a focus of what we're doing at these divisions.
So Scott, but for some of these, so for T-ball, right, you bat the entire lineup every inning. You don't keep track of outs or runs. Like farm, it's you bat the whole lineup or 3 outs, right? You again don't keep track of runs. Like in maps, yes, you do 5 runs or 3 outs, right? So
yep.
For T-ball, why would you even do this?
Would you even do this at all?
Yeah.
It's a good question. I mean, that's a fair question. I'm probably not the right person to ask, and I mean, that's probably something to check in with like Ben and the folks on the board. I'm just sort of walking you guys through how this works, and not necessarily the enforcer of making sure you all do it. So, but if there's questions like that, I'm happy to kind of follow up with.
Hi, this is Victor. I'm actually on the board, and I just kind of wanted to drop in and say hello. Sorry, I'm sort of multitasking. What was the question again? Maybe I can shed some light on it.
So, Victor, I think it's just the necessity of doing this in these divisions. Like in particular, T-ball, you bat the entire lineup every inning, right? You don't really keep track of outs or runs. And farm, you bat the entire lineup or 3 outs. And then in maps, yes, you start keeping track of runs because it's 5 runs or 3 outs.
So the letter of the law is that we have to do it. And I agree. And I've gone through T-ball 3 times now. But what we really want is for you to just keep the book handy so that you know who's next. Sometimes people bat out of order. We want to just kind of keep that going. And I know you don't have to keep track of who went all the way around or what, where was the out or anything like that in T-ball. As you move up, you will need to do more, but making sure that the roster was there, each of those kids did bat. And then, we don't really write out who was playing infield and outfield. It happened so fast, but if parents do complain, we usually hear about it. We usually hear about it from parents who complain that their kids aren't playing, and then we'll deal with it that way. So yes, it's very light approach to it, but we would like to see the book filled out and see who came that day, and just make sure that they're batting in order. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Victor. All right. Any other questions on starting lineup stuff before we move on? All right. Let's see. So yeah, this is I think this is just kind of, you can put people at the bottom that are not playing. I mean, if you get a roster from somebody and they've got somebody that's just not going to be there, you can put them on the bottom and then just cross through them throughout the whole thing so that it represents that they weren't there. We are going to skip over starting pitchers because that doesn't apply here. Batting order, yeah, this is just just more of a note to like make sure that you're keeping track of, if you are keeping track of who's up at bat and when, if people start to be out of order, kind of just make sure that you're scoring for the right kid and that you're not putting it on just like the next one in line, but just find that kid and make sure that you're keeping track of it for that kid. So this is going to be probably a little, actually this one is relatively straightforward. Some of these, as we get into it here, and what you'll see in the guide, are probably a little advanced for what we need to be tracking for these divisions, as you guys were just pointing out. But this is really kind of like how you could, if you're going to track balls and strikes, this is really just showing you the section that you would do that on here. So as you just go back up here, that's for each of these little guys here. This is obviously like kind of one column per inning. So this is the first inning and first person at bat. We will come down here and you can kind of keep track of balls on the bottom here and strikes on the top. So this is really just like tick marks, 1, 2, 3 for the balls, 1, 2 for the strikes. We'll get into I'll show you in a second how to keep track of outs and when they get on base. Don't need to really get too fancy with your how you're tracking that part there. When they get on base, you're just going to represent it by the line. So single, obviously going to first, doubles going around. It's really more just to keep track of like singles and doubles and walks, and it's circling this guy up here. So the fact that this is circled shows that you got a single. But eventually, if this kid comes all the way around, you're going to kind of fill this in, and so you wouldn't be able to tell necessarily from this being filled in that they got a single or double without looking up there. Again, this is getting this is kind of probably more important as they move up in the divisions to kind of track all of this. I would say that it's it's kind of good to really get. I mean, I think Ben and I were talking about it earlier, and Jeff, that this is also sort of just like if you're going to be a scorekeeper in the league, this is sort of practice as well for you to just kind of get used to keeping track of this sort of stuff, because it does get more complicated as you move up in the division. So but it's probably not, especially for the really younger ages, not as critical, right? Because you're just playing through the lineup, that kind of thing. Recording and out, I think, is what we are actually. So yeah, so recording and out is just capturing it in this circle here. So first out, second out, third out. Just kind of capture it with the numbers. You can use the K for strikeout if you want to keep track of whether they struck out, or make a notation. All of these, I would sort of say, at these divisions, you can. There's in the appendix here. You can get fancy with keeping track of every error, every kind of notation, but that's really not necessary at these divisions. And then at the end of the inning, I'm actually going to scroll down to one of to this guy's, so you can kind of see one here that's filled out more complicated than you guys need to have it.
Sydney, did you finish all your work? And you also ready?
Yeah, all right, let's see if I can just.
Scott, I'm going to give you admin. I'm going to give you admin control.
All right, cool. Yeah. If anybody's not muted and not talking to us, please mute. All right, so this shows you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids were up in the first inning here, and then kind of when the inning's done, that third out was captured here. Zoom in just a little bit so you can see it. So you can kind of see what's going on with what we were talking about with the keeping track of how they're moving around the bases here, keeping track of whether it was a first single or double strikeout here and for the third kid. So this was the strikeout represented by the K, 1 for the first out. So really just worry about tracking the outs. So you've got, 1, 2, 3 outs, 3 in a row here. And then with that being the last out, you want to kind of just cross off the kid right below so that you'll know where you're going to be starting from in the next inning. So you'll start here for the second inning. And it's cleaner to just kind of, put a line through everybody else so that you don't get, mixed up and accidentally. I've done a few of these where then I just kind of lose track and I forget to do that. And I just start, scoring the second inning at the bottom of the first inning and nonsense like that. Then there's a lot of erasing and trying to catch up while you're trying to watch the game as well. So help yourself out by just kind of putting a line through any part that is not used in that inning, so you can start fresh on the next one. And you can kind of see, here you're just kind of moving down, through the order, and through the innings. And I don't think we can actually see, we can't see the bottom of the score sheet here, but at the bottom of each of these, you can track like the total runs as well. So when here, like the runs are represented by, filling in an entire field there. And so you can kind of track the runs at the bottom as well. And this might be, I think that, we're going to skip over all this pitch count stuff here. And as some folks were mentioning earlier, depending on what division you're in, it's just going to be, you bat through the lineup, or, as you get through the higher divisions, it might be, five runs, and, you even if there's not 3 outs, you move on, that kind of thing. So let me stop there though and see if there's questions about the scorebook, keeping track of outs, any of that. Get back to that page.
I have a quick question. If we didn't hear the umpire, because I guess they're kind of more out in the infield now, instead of behind the plate, where would we be, by the way, as far as the score taking?
Yeah, I mean, you can. So as I think it was last year that, depending on where you're at, I mean, if your games are going to be, if your games are at BMR, I think a lot of your games would be at BMR. Some of them at probably at elementary schools as well, if that's happening. I'm actually not too sure where some of the T-ball games are all happening this year, but you really can set up wherever is best for you, wherever you're going to be able to hear. The umpire is probably one of the more important ones, and also be able to be near one of the coaches or managers for questions as well. So I usually would set up kind of like in between the dugout and home plate somewhere. And at Canyon Side, they have scorekeeper tables now that are set up as well. So if you're playing at Canyon Side, there's scorekeeper tables that are kind of in that same spot between the dugout and home plate. But there's not really a rule about where you need to be. It's just wherever you can hear best.
Okay, I was just asking because I know one of the safety protocols was that I guess they don't want us behind the plate, or is that just family specifically? If for the scorekeeper, we're able to be, say, behind home plate.
I believe so. I don't know if Victor, if you're still on, or if not, I can check with Smythe and get back.
You're not going to want to be able to sit. You're not going to be able to sit directly behind home plate, because most of the time that's covered by a piece of wood that catches the ball, and you're not going to be able to see anything. So I know that we're trying to discourage people to sit in the stands, but I think the scorekeeper by themselves, as long as you maintain social distancing, you should be fine. But you're definitely going to want to put yourself in a place where you can hear and you can see. I don't want to put too much pressure on anybody. I know this is really the early, the younger divisions as well. But if there comes a moment where the managers lose track and the umpire loses track, you are the official scorekeeper. That you are the official person with the information on what's going on in the game. And if there's a junior umpire there, you are the adult umpire technically there as well. So what you write in the book will always go back to you. So you just want to make sure you're in a position where you can hear. But the nice thing is that, you do get the best seat in the house, right? Because we need you to know what's going on and be close. So that's it.
Cool. Yeah. So really, I mean, there's not really too much more to it here, other than kind of at the end of the game, what you'll do. And I don't think we have an example of it written out here, but sorry guys, this is just sort of the limitations of some of the Zoom stuff. When we do this in person, we can just write up on the board and show you guys what we're doing or pass things around. But really all it is just making sure that you capture the final score. You can write it in big letters here in the empty space out here, and so 4-2 whatever it is, and then to also have like the run by the managers, have them sign it. That's, I don't know how critical that part of it is in some of the divisions here, but that's typical for most of the games, is to get the score written down, have the managers just kind of sign, look at it and say, yep, sign off on it. And then you just gonna go, I would take a picture of each side as well on your phone, and just, text that to one of the managers. I think, I'm not sure if they do this for all the divisions, but several of the divisions do keep track on the website as well. And typically I think one of the managers will actually be the one to input that on the site. I know it's not typically the scorekeeper doing that, but so if you send them the picture of what happened, they'll be able to do that, and that makes it kind of easy for you. And then just put the scorebook back in the box with those pencils, and your job's done. So I think that's it's pretty much the job. I'll see if stop to see what questions you guys have, or if any other discussion items.
So there's no umpires at this level at T-ball, farm, and maps, correct? You guys are referencing umpires, and I believe there's no umpires.
I don't recall for maps if the farm we definitely did not have them. The base coaches called the outs.
I think actually it's the pitcher. So the pitcher is the one that's responsible for calling the outs. The parent who's doing the pitching. But you're right, there are no umpires for those 3 divisions.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure something didn't change.
Victor, I had another question for you. So with the the minimum fair play time, like having to get the certain number of infield positions before the 5th, and those kinds of things, and not having catchers in these divisions, are we going to adjust this? Because we all have possibly up to 13 players, and it might be, I haven't run the math, but it might be difficult to get everybody into infield positions without catcher being one of them.
I don't have the official word yet, but I think I think the rule also states that if they didn't do their minimum play, they have to meet their minimum play in the next game. So if you take the 2 games to try to accommodate that, I think you'll be fine, and parents will understand. If parents will tell you if their kids aren't playing. So, you'll try to accommodate that. But I will talk to Ben and the rest of the guys and see if we need to put something official there to help you kind of manage that.
There's some good spreadsheets running around. I got one from Jeremy Von Kuster that helps the managers out in making lineups to make sure that this is fair, if anybody needs that. But I haven't modified it for no catcher yet. So curious what the rules are.
I've used that every year. And if a parent comes up to me, I'm like, hey, your kid has played infield 15 times, just like everybody else.
Yeah, I hand them out. I hand them out to parents so they can see who they're cheering for. So.
Exactly.
I concur that spreadsheet has been a lifesaver through the years.
Mike, I even track it, like how many positions they play every game, and just tally it throughout the year. So I see if I'm making sure somebody's playing one spot too many times or somewhere hasn't played somewhere else. But
yep, I do too. I did the same too. So if anyone needs it, like Jake said, I'd take advantage of it.
Also, you can just hand it to your scorekeeper. Makes it easy.
All right. Is there any other questions? All right. Well, if not, I think we can wrap it up.
Just
thanks, Victor, for joining and for
absolutely.
Too.
Good luck, everybody. If some of you guys are managers, please feel free to reach out to us on Slack, or ask your manager to reach out on Slack. And if you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to help you.
Thank you.
Can I ask one quick question? So for farm and maps, do the kids know the score at the end of the game? I mean, I know in T-ball, they didn't keep score. And then last year we only played 1 game. But I don't know.
There is no scoring at all through the whole season yet, except for in maps, there is a playoff and there is a score being capped. So technically there's a score, but the kids always count, right? But as a manager and with the other managers that I always tell them, like, I don't score with how many runs you get. I score the game by how many outs you get. So I used to play, you know, T-ball and farm and be like, oh, I got 5 outs this game and you got 3 outs. And in my head, I was like, oh yeah, that's a win. You know, of course that's unofficial. That's just me trying to, you know, see where we need improvement. But, you know, there is no scoring through those 3 divisions.
We do have to track 5 runs for batting in maps.
Correct. You track the 5 runs, but technically
But you don't tally the runs at the end. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. I did want to ask you, did everybody, if anybody didn't get the, here, I'll just, I'm going to put my email address in the chat here. If anybody didn't get the email from Ben with the guide that we just walked through today, just shoot me a quick email and I'll make sure you get it. Oops. All right. Well, if there's not anything else, I think we're good to go. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for volunteering for the scorekeeping job.
Thank you.
Thank you.